One thing that I do want to say is that people who like to shield for the state of Israel don't realize that they are doing far more damage than good. When you parrot lies, you are literally harming the Jewish community. And the reason I say this is because as long as you are parroting the lie and shifting the blame to a different group of people who are not associated with whatever attack happens, right? You are pretty much excusing the state of Israel to continue terrorizing innocent Jewish people. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. With the recent Bondi attack in Australia, I think it would be a really good idea that we should take a little history lesson here. With that being said, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And if you like my commentary, that should give you even more reason to subscribe, to be honest with you. If you don't, why not subscribe? Maybe you might like the future videos that I make. Who knows? With that being said, propaganda and co. Let's go ahead and listen.
Story before? In 1949, a Zionist Jew of German descent named Meyer Max Bennett was sent on a mission to Iraq by the Mossad. There, he connected with another Mossad agent, Yusuf Basri, and planned a series of attacks on Iraqi Jews, providing him with maps, instructions, and very specific orders to terrorize the Jewish population. From 1950 to 1951, a wave of bombings struck the Jewish community in Iraq. Cafes, mechanic shops, and synagogues were all targeted by grenades and TNT explosives. These attacks coincided with underground Zionist groups calling for Iraqi Jews to leave for Israel for their safety. The wave of false flag terrorist attacks succeeded in forcing Iraqi Jews to migrate to Israel. Jews had lived in Iraq for thousands of years, but in just 2 years, nearly all 130,000 Iraqi Jews were gone. This forced exodus helped Israel with its demographic issues in the early stages.
You know, it kind of punches the narrative in the face when it says that Muslims don't like Jews, you know? For over 1,000 years, they were living in Iraq. And you know what's crazy too? There's a Jewish community in Iran currently as we speak. Yeah. Have you heard any bombing in Iran on the Jewish community over there? Huh. Wow. Interesting. Wow. It's like they're living in peace in Iran, and Muslims have no problem with them. Weird. Anyways.
Of its existence, as it desperately needed Middle Eastern Jews to help shore up its population, since Ashkenazi Jews were not enough to compete demographically with the indigenous Palestinian population. These terrorist attacks on Iraqi Jews are just one example of a long list of Israel's use of false flag terrorist attacks to achieve its political goals. For his involvement in the terror attacks, Yusuf Basri was arrested by Iraqi police and later executed. Max Bennett, the German Jewish Mossad agent, managed to escape and later helped organize an even larger false flag terror attack in Egypt. In 1952, Bennett traveled to Egypt, again using his identity as a German businessman, and spent 2 years recruiting agents. This time, however, he presented himself as an innocent, harmless businessman doing God's work by producing equipment for the disabled. Wow, what an incredibly charitable and generous man, dedicating his life to helping the disabled. In reality, he was setting up Operation Susanna, a false flag operation in which Jews would plant bombs inside Egyptian, American, and British-owned civilian targets like cinemas, libraries, and American educational centers. The intention was to blame the Muslim Egyptian communists for the attacks, with the hope that the violence would force British troops occupying the Suez Canal to remain in place instead of handing over control to Egyptian forces. Just like in Iraq, Israel gave the go-ahead for its agents to carry out these terror attacks. Explosions rocked Alexandria and Cairo, but the operation fell short of its intended scope of damage when one of the agents flipped and informed Egyptian authorities. Egyptian authorities then went on to catch one Jewish agent in the act while he was attempting to bomb the British-owned Rio Theater in Cairo. As a result, Egyptian intelligence arrested several undercover Jewish agents, including Max Bennett. When it became clear that he would be executed for his involvement, Bennett committed suicide. The failed operation later became known as the infamous Lavon Affair. Israel denied any involvement in the Egyptian and Iraqi false flag terror attacks, but was later exposed. First in 2005, when the Israeli president awarded surviving agents from the Lavon Affair certificates of
I mean, look at this. This is like a slap in the face right here. Seriously. To the Egyptians out there, obviously we understand Sisi is a puppet because that dude literally got into office via coup. But this is a slap in the face. These people tried to commit a tea attack in Egypt, And then they denied it. Oh, we have no relationship with these people. After 50 years later, they go ahead and just, this is just, I mean, I don't even know what to say about this whole situation, bro.
Appreciation. And
Crazy.
again, in 2023, when British-Israeli historian Avi Schleim spoke directly to a Jewish agent who had been part of the Zionist underground in Baghdad and who provided evidence that Israel was behind the attacks on Iraqi Jews. There are numerous reports of false flag operations over the decades serving Israel's interests, including direct and indirect involvement in terrorist attacks. This history alone is enough to justify speculative claims about more recent or even modern attacks being Israeli false flags. Not only is there the Israeli connection to 9/11, but just a month later, on October 10th, 2001, 2 Israelis were caught with Pakistani passports, grenades, explosives, and guns inside the Mexican parliament just moments before trying to carry out a massive terrorist attack on Mexico.
Like, what the Mexican people, like, seriously, Mexico too? Like, bro, no country, no nation, wherever you are in the world, you are not safe from these people, bro. You're not. And then they got the grip on the most powerful country in the world. Like, oh my God, dude, it's crazy how far they have infiltrated so many places in the world. And if they haven't infiltrated these places, they commit false flag attack. So that way these places can pass certain type of law. This whole entire idea of we're the victim. This video sums up the idea that a lot of the victimhood, a lot of the attack on them is actually orchestrated by themselves, because nobody cares about them, by the way. People think that, oh, everybody hates the Jew. No, nobody cares about them. They know that. They know that. So they have to play this card. They have to seem like they're the victim, so that way they can keep hanging on a dime saying that they've been, this word anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, they're literally bombing Palestinians who are also Semites, but let's not get into that rabbit hole. But this is what they do to gain control or pass law in certain type of countries. With this whole Bondi Beach attack recently in Australia, right? They are literally trying to, like, they're sending Mossad agent to go investigate the Bondi Beach attack in Australia. I mean, seriously, in Australia, why can't the Australians themselves do the investigation? You want to know why? Because we understand something. It was an inside job. I genuinely don't believe that this was a lunatic Muslim who decided to pick up a gun with his father and go unalive a bunch of innocent people at a beach who have no issues with them. Benjamin Netanyahu said it best himself. I went ahead and warned the government of Australia that them recognizing the state of Palestine is going to go ahead and increase. This dude just happens to predict major event that's going to happen. He did the same thing with 7/11, in case you don't know. Yeah. You can see him on an interview talking about, well, if the Islamic if they're not taken care of, I don't know his exact word, but this is kind of the summed up, right? Oh, if the Islamists are not taken care of, the next thing you know is, who knows, they just might bring down the Twin Tower. Fast forward 2001, the Twin Tower just happens to calm down. And then on top of that, we found out that there were 7 Israelis on top of buildings who were recording it and dancing. And then fast forward, Benjamin Netanyahu himself was caught saying that the best thing, 7/11 was the best thing that happened to the state of Israel. But yeah, you got a bunch of dumbass ass and asses still blaming the Muslims. What benefit the Muslims get from 7/11? Name me one. I'll wait. Just one benefit that was actually gained by Muslims. And yeah, you're still parroting the same bullshit, the same nonsense. Oh, Muslims are the most evil people in the world. Oh, Muslims are the people who are committing all these tea attack against the Jewish community. Seriously? Muslims? I mean, our prophet, the guy that we respect, the guy that we love more than anybody in this world, married a Jewish lady. Seriously. But yet Muslims hate Jews. Why? When our prophet literally married a Jewish lady, and we respect Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than anybody in this world. We follow his footsteps to the best of our ability.
Mexican officials. Their intention, of course, was to blame it on Muslims in a climate that was already incredibly paranoid and fearful of Islam. The Israeli government rushed to help impose a media blackout on the failed plot and pressure the Mexican government to quietly release their Jewish agents. The media blackout is one of the reasons why you've never heard of this operation before, but we know about it because Mexican newspapers at the time covered it in detail. In just this year, in February of 2025, an explosion destroyed 3 buses in Bat Yam in occupied Palestine. Israeli authorities claimed that 2 Palestinian terrorists had carried out the attack. Zionists went into a frenzy calling Palestinians terrorists for attempting to kill civilians at a time when they were actively committing genocide in Gaza. However, as soon as it was revealed that it was actually 2 Jewish Israelis who had planted the bombs and detonated them,
Wow.
the government ordered a blackout and all reporting on the case was shut down.
Like, they're gonna keep doing it. They're gonna keep doing it. And the people who you supported, you give your money to, your social media influencers, guess what? They're not gonna tell you the real truth. They are given a script because they understand something. That you guys are stupid. Okay? You're stupid, you're dumb. Whatever narrative they're gonna put out there, they're like, they're gonna gobble it up anyway. So let's just go ahead and do something obvious that clearly leads back to us, even though we're the one that's gonna benefit from it. I mean, when there's an attack to happen, think about who benefits from it, and then start investigating those exact people. Every single time. Just think about it. Who is going to benefit from this?
Israeli false flags don't always have to actually include violence. Sometimes, just the threat of it is enough. During Trump's first term, thousands of bomb threats were called into Jewish communities in the United States and around the world. Threats that the ADL and other groups used as evidence that anti-Semitism was on the rise. It later turned out, however, that every single one of these threats was made by a Jewish American Israeli. A Jewish American Israeli teenager arrested for making 2,000 anti-Semitic bomb threats against Jewish community centers across the U.S. is also accused of attempting to extort a Republican senator who spoke out against the hoax bomb threats. The teen went so far as to order drugs to the senator's home while threatening to release allegedly incriminating photos, according to a Justice Ministry spokesperson. And he wasn't just targeting American institutions. 561 out of the 2,000 calls were made to Australian Jewish community centers and schools. Speaking of Australia, there have been a number of absurd false flag attacks over the last 2 years. There is very strong reason to believe that the Zionists themselves are responsible for these terror attacks in an attempt to portray themselves as victims while their beloved Jewish colonial apartheid state commits genocide in Gaza. In one case, a Zionist entered a Muslim-owned cafe wearing a Star of David, accompanied by an undercover journalist from the Telegraph attempting to bait the owners into kicking him out for his Jewish identity.
A man wearing a Star of David cap walks in and orders a hibiscus tea. Seconds later, a senior journalist from the Daily Telegraph enters with her photographer and allegedly asks the same female server, "Have you got a problem with the man with the white cap?" She says, "Why would I have a problem?" It was all part of a stunt planned by the Daily Telegraph, allegedly called Undercover Operation.
In another case, Zionists recruited 2 crackheads desperate for money to spray "Kill the Jews" onto a car before firebombing it. People who knew the 2 crackheads claimed that they had never ever mentioned Israel or Palestine and had zero interest in geopolitics. They also tried to spray paint Israel on the car, but misspelled it. A number of arson attacks also took place at synagogues and restaurants, leading Australian officials to initially deem them as anti-Semitic terror attacks. After investigations, however, authorities determined that puppet masters were using the dark web to contact people desperate for money and offered them cryptocurrency in order to carry out the attacks. Now, Israel claims that it assisted Australia during the course of the investigations and determined that Iran was behind the attacks. Of course,
First of all, there was no investigation that was done to blame it on Iran. I've actually heard rumors that it was actually the ISIS people, but I think they've now shifted the blame toward Iran. And I wonder why. Why would they blame Iran of all people? Oh, that's why. Because Iran seems to be the only superpower in the Middle East that is in their way, so that way they can have complete full dominance in that area. Wow. Okay. Things are starting to make a lot of sense. You know? Benjamin Netanyahu has been making the claim that Iran is 2 days away from building it. I'm exaggerating here. He didn't say 2 days, but he said like 1 month, 2 years. Man, this dude literally spew a bunch of freaking bullshit ass numbers because he knows you stupid asses are gonna go ahead and gobble it up anyway. He knows that. So of course he's gonna go ahead. For over 30 plus years, this dude has been making the claim that Iran is on the verge of creating a nuclear bomb. To this day, Iran has not created a nuclear bomb. So, since that didn't work, okay, and now there's no more inspection in Iran because they were inspection to make sure that they're not building a bomb. But since there's no more inspection and the idea that Iran is building a bomb didn't work, now they're starting to do all these false flag attacks so that way they can blame it on Iran, even though I don't see what benefit Iran is going to gain from this. I really don't see any benefit from it. Except for, of course, Israel is going to benefit from this attack because all they got to do is now pressure the Australian government to go ahead and pass laws. And recently, I just heard that they've actually been successful, that Australia has now banned certain type of speech.
They never provided any evidence of this, and it's far more likely that Israel itself orchestrated these attacks, as it has orchestrated many others before, and then pressured the Australian government to blame it on Iran. Now, with the recent attacks at Bondi Beach, the internet is ablaze with claims of it being a false flag. Naturally, of course, the Zionists are calling these claims anti-Semitic, but the reality is that their long documented history of carrying out or threatening these terror attacks has made the public deeply distrustful. And you know what? It's their own fault. Not only because historically they have been guilty of these actions, but because the Mossad openly brags about their violence, terror, and trickery on television.
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors, we're the producers, we're the main actors. The world is our stage.
Its motto from Proverbs 24:6 says in so many words, wage war through deception and trickery.
Now, this is just scratching the surface of the undercover false flag terrorism that Zionists are guilty of. What they've done could probably fill a Peter Jackson directed extended cut trilogy. The takeaway from all of this is very simple. These people are evil with too many schemes and plots to count. People have noticed, and they're not buying it anymore. It's the classic tale of the boy who cried wolf. A shepherd repeatedly tricks villagers into believing that a wolf is attacking his flock. When a real wolf finally appears, however, and the boy cries for help, the villagers dismiss it as another lie, allowing the wolf to devour the sheep. Now, I don't think we need to run around calling everything an Israeli false flag. I think it's enough to simply expose their long, well-documented history of these terror attacks and trickery. After that, people can simply trust their instincts. And I think that's what's happening right now. Maybe that's why people see this and dismiss it entirely as just another piece of performative propaganda by a professional crisis actor. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section. I want to give a very special shout out to my propagandist members who subscribed to the YouTube channel. As you know, my videos can be quite controversial, which often leads to YouTube censoring my content, demonetizing it, and one day perhaps, God forbid, deplatforming me entirely. So if you're not a member,
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, this is the YouTube channel right here who created this video. And so with me ending it off, one thing that I do want to say is that people who like to shield for the state of Israel, they don't realize that they are doing far more damage than good. When you parrot lies, you are literally harming the Jewish community. And the reason I say this is because as long as you are parroting the lie and shifting the blame to a different group of people who are not associated with whatever attack happens, right? You are pretty much excusing the state of Israel to continue terrorizing innocent Jewish people. The people who are at the beach, what did they do to deserve what came to them? Absolutely nothing. They had no right to be unalive. I said they. Nobody had any right to unalive them at their beach. They were just sitting there celebrating their holiday in peace. But yet, I'm not going to lie to you. I genuinely believe that this attack was orchestrated by the state of Israel. Why? Because this attack is only going to benefit them. And it just happens that Benjamin Netanyahu predicted in the past that there's going to be an attack in Israel. And it just happens, not in Israel, I'm sorry, in Australia. And it just happened that that Australia has recognized the state of Palestine. I mean, you guys have to put two and two together, man. Sometimes it's extremely difficult when people don't think for themselves and yet they just sit there and listen to their favorite podcaster or social media influencer and then just gobble up everything that they spew on the internet. Truth of the matter is the truth is not on these people's side. And if you listen to them and you gobble up whatever it is that they're going to tell you and you actually think that you are standing on truth, all that's going to do is make you look like an idiot in front of hundreds and thousands of people based off of wherever you go. I'm seriously, I've seen videos of literally people who support the state of Israel trying to debunk the lies that's out there, the lies, and they just end up looking like a bunch of idiots. Only the people, I'm just like, it's very, very frustrating having to literally explain the most basic thing that you can possibly just, it's like, these are so basic. All it takes is a little bit of research and just some digging and you will find out what's going on. I've gone on for too long, ladies and gentlemen. If you made it this far, and please don't forget to leave a like and sub, and I'll catch you guys up in the next video.